Oh no! Oh geez! Who would have predicted this? I really love opening videos this way. Cuomo announces income tax revenues have dropped by $2.3 billion. Heavens! Let me explain something very simply to you, who probably most of you understand this. When you increase tax revenues, you have no guarantee. I'm sorry, hold on, let me back up. When you increase taxes, you have no guarantee revenues will go up for a few reasons. In the United States, there's very little stopping anybody from moving states. That's why a lot of people live in like Delaware and Florida, for instance, that I believe Delaware and Florida have no state income tax. So New York has a very, very high income tax, but New York City also has an income tax, one of the few cities in this country that actually has an income tax. So very few people actually want to live there. Now, New York was cracking down. My understanding is that they were cracking down on a lot of these rich people that will move somewhere else and fly into New York periodically. And I think I think it's something like if you go to New York at least half the year, just above half the year, then you have to pay full income tax for New York City. But people just don't do that. And so you can actually just move to a different state because New York City is very close to like 3 different states. So here we have the story, which is absolutely fascinating. But here's the best part. Not only is revenue down, but Andrew Cuomo, Democrat, is begging rich people. He said, God forbid if the rich people leave, no, he won't raise taxes on them. Really? Really? Which flies in the face of what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been talking about with her 70% marginal income tax rate. Now, I'll say this. Conservatives keep misrepresenting what she's actually talking about with a progressive income tax rate, and I believe a progressive tax rate makes sense and is good. I'm not a fan of the flat tax. It's complicated. But I will point out, we are in an era where capital flows between state lines and government and countries very, very easily. It was easy to implement, certain policies and increase taxes. I'll put it this way. They all talk about how, did you know that in the 30s and 40s, the income tax rate was 90%? It's like, okay. It was also extremely difficult to transfer money from the U.S. to a foreign country. Now it's like that. I mean, Bitcoin, for Christ's sakes. Let's read this story. Governor Andrew Cuomo announced Monday that state income tax revenues plummeted by $2.3 billion since he introduced his new budget plan last month, a bombshell that will force him to curb spending. Cuomo attributed the revenue drop in December and January largely to the new federal tax code, as well as volatility in the stock market and other uncertainties. That's a $2.3 billion drop in revenues. That's as serious as a heart attack. This is worse than we had anticipated, the governor said in Albany. The reduction must be addressed in this year's budget. In a rare joint appearance with Cuomo, State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli confirmed the deteriorating finances. This is the most serious revenue shock the state has faced in many years. He urged Cuomo and the legislature to sock more money away in the state's rainy day fund to prepare for the worst. Cuomo had planned to spend $176 billion, including around $100 billion in federal funds in the new fiscal year that starts on April 1st. Cuomo's preliminary analysis claims much of the impact is coming from a drop in revenues from the state's highest income earners, most impacted by the loss of write-offs of state and local tax deductions known as SALT. The federal law approved by President Trump and the then GOP-controlled Congress limited SALT deductions to $10,000. The loss of revenue from New York's wealthiest puts New York in a bind because the state relies on a progressive income tax system that taxes the rich at a higher rate. 1% of the state's top income. Okay, hold on. I gotta stop right here. This is insane. All right, 1% of the state's top income earners provide 46% of the state's personal income tax revenues. That's nuts. Cuomo said Albany can't go to the well and tax the wealthy again because that would only worsen the situation, citing anecdotal evidence that high-income New Yorkers are already fleeing the state to lower tax jurisdictions. Oh, bravo, bravo. He offered no figures to back up his claim. I don't believe raising taxes on the rich. That would be the worst thing to do. You would just expand the shortfall, he said. God forbid if the rich leave. Aside from spending, Cuomo's slide presentation also mentioned the state is phasing in tax cuts for middle-income New Yorkers, raising questions whether the state would have to postpone the reductions. So, in today's technologically advanced world, it is not as easy to just claim oh, but in, this time period, we had 90% taxes. Why can't we do that? That seemed to work when you had nothing else to do, when you had nowhere else to go. But now you can snap your fingers and transfer your wealth to any foreign country. I mean, look at the Southern Poverty Law Center, for instance, has been accused of dumping money into like the Cayman Islands or something. How many people just easily do that? Take all your money, register your company in some, St. Kitts and Nevis or something, and then operate, and your income is sent to a different country. You don't got to pay taxes on it. It's ridiculously easy. So here we have, interestingly, another story that lends itself into this narrative, which I find fascinating, is Ocasio-Cortez is talking about the 70% marginal income tax rate. I do believe a progressive tax makes the most sense, and I'll try and make it simple. Income equality is a really, really bad thing. It is. We want people to succeed. We want people to invent the light bulb and make $1 billion doing something fantastic. If Elon Musk can colonize Mars and it advances human civilization and it's valuable to the rest of humanity, or if he can mine, asteroids or whatever, that's great. You should be rewarded for developing new technology and creating new businesses. You should be able to become wealthy and live comfortably. But politically, there reaches a point where destabilization starts to occur. And there's a lot of things that play into this, right? For instance, when too many low-skilled workers come into the country and disrupt the bottom of the market, so your citizenry, your lower-skilled working class can't find work, they get angry. They can't eat. Then they look and they see a ton of people are extremely successful, and they get jealous, they get angry. I'm not saying we should tax the rich 70% because people are jealous, but I will point out, you need to make sure your economy can remain stable. You need to make sure that at the lowest levels, people don't feel like they're being taken advantage of. So one of the things that happens with a progressive tax, in my opinion, is with a flat tax, you end up with a runaway economy where the wealthiest can easily just get wealthier and wealthier more quickly and more quickly, and the poor struggle to break those barriers. So a decent example, let me give you a better example. If the way I explained it in another video, the average person needs $77,000 a year to live a median life. You have your healthcare, you have vacation, you have a family, all that stuff. If you're only making $77,000 a year, your savings will be very, very small. If you're making $770,000 a year, 90% of your income just goes into investments and saving. You don't got to worry about it. That money can accrue interest, and you can live off the capital gains by just having money. At a certain point, you have so much money, you are infinitely wealthy. Like there's people who are independently wealthy who just have money from having money. I have no problems with that. I do have a problem though with when the runaway effect goes too far, you end up with a massive uprising of people demanding socialism and taxing the wealthy. It doesn't work. So that's why I think it's complicated. I know I probably didn't do a good job of breaking it down. I did it in a different video, but I'd be more than willing to debate the idea. The reason why I don't agree with 70% is because this is it's like somebody read a history book and said, hey, they did it then, we can do it now. No, times change. Technology changes. You're not adapting to the new state of our environment, of the digital stock market. You're not talking about the speed in which transactions occur. And you're not talking about how you can simply snap your fingers and move all of your money. You could buy Bitcoin and then just move all your crypto wherever, easily. So what happens when Ocasio-Cortez gets her 70% tax rate? First of all, she says it would hit NFL owners, not players. That's not true. It would hit both. That's why I thought the story was funny. I didn't pull the story up because I want to talk about football. I pulled it up because I wanted to bring up Cortez's 70%. If you implement a 70% marginal tax rate, I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. People are going to leave the U.S. It's plain and simple. And, I think there's so many people in the Democratic Party or just the far left that are entertaining this idea because it's going to attract votes, I suppose. But this is what I talked about. How when you have a system where you end up with billionaires, Ocasio-Cortez said something like, it's immoral to have a country, it's immoral for a country to have billionaires when other people are starving, or something to that effect. That's the mentality I'm talking about. And that's why a progressive tax rate makes sense. And that's why you want to limit income inequality, because you don't want to have a serf class. You don't want to have a mass, and I gotta say, it's fascinating how the policies of the far left, they claim to oppose these things, but actually want to implement them, right? They talk about socialism and communism. Well, when you actually try to implement those systems, you create a ruling class instantly that holds all the wealth. You basically snap your fingers and make a bunch of trillionaires who control everything. That's insanely wrong. They talk about open borders. That pulls the floor out from your working class people and destroys their lives. They don't seem to understand this. And the high tax rate would cause your wealthiest to flee And as Andrew Cuomo said, God forbid if the rich leave. So I can rag on the Democrats for their plans all day and night. However, I'm seeing so many people mischaracterize what Ocasio-Cortez is talking about, right? You've got memes from Turning Point USA saying that, it's a quote from Ocasio saying billionaires shouldn't exist or something. She never said that. She said we shouldn't have billionaires when we have people who are sick or starving. Something like that. Okay, that's totally different. You have people claiming that 70% of a progressive tax rate on income over $10 million would affect literally everybody. It won't. It will in a very complicated way in which rich people will leave the country and invest in other countries where they'll get a better deal. And that's a problem. That's a problem for different jurisdictions. But ultimately, Andrew Cuomo has probably the best quote that I think I just want to leave you off with here. Just one more time. God forbid if the rich leave. Plain and simple. God forbid. And he flat out says it's because if he taxes the rich, they will leave. He will lose money. Wow, a Democrat said that. So you know what? I find that pretty good. Anyway, stick around. I'll have another video coming up at 1 p.m. I'll see you then.